Hello and welcome to Newsclick. Today we have with us Professor Pervez Hoodbhoy, who is well known to an Indian audience as well as to Newsclick. Pervez, good to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you, Prabir.
You know, we are at the moment in India in a scenario which is somewhat reminiscent of what you went through in the 80s when Pakistan started Islamizing science itself, and you started talking about science also being somewhat complemented by religion, religious education should be a part of science education, etc. Do you think that really had an adverse effect on Pakistan's science? What do you think was its impact?
I think it's quite amazing how well Indians are following Pakistanis in this regard. Now, for example, at the Indian Science Congress, I heard that Lord Shiva has been declared the greatest environmentalist that ever lived, and that some scientists came blowing the conch to the Congress and said, by hearing this, your mind will open up and you'll get new thoughts coming in. And this reminded me exactly of what is being said in the biology department of the finest university in Pakistan, LUMS, by its chairman, who says by listening to Surah Rahman, that's a verse of the Quran, that the new genes will be made and they will help people in recover from terminal illnesses, and that there should be special rooms in every hospital in Pakistan where this surah is heard by patients. So it's amazing how close India and Pakistan have become. Of course, you guys have a long way to go, but you'll catch up if you continue at this speed.
Now, that's an interesting proposition, that this started really earlier and we are now following suit. But the problem that I have, and that's a question I would like to ask, that if you ask some of the Pakistan scientists, which I have, they keep on saying, well, it didn't really affect science. Now, that is to be, of course, a very doubtful statement, because obviously they do not want to criticize the establishment in Pakistan. So how did it affect Pakistan science?
That's a good question. It didn't affect it directly, in the sense that, see, science is technical. You learn techniques and you learn how to do this and that. And in a sense, it's become like engineering these days. It's become mastering techniques. And so I'd say that, okay, if some senior scientist comes along and says that you get jinns out of energy, this does not directly affect the pursuit of science in Pakistan. And similarly in India, and so India has been able to send Mangalyaan to Mars. It's been able to do some very good work. On the other hand, it does affect your overall mindset, and it affects the teaching of science and the propagation of science. And so at a deep level, where one should be applying the scientific method and applying the need for constant questioning and the need for evidence, that aspect, that fundamental aspect of science is now being given second place, a second level, certainly in Pakistan, but now increasingly more in India. And I'm really sorry to see that.
That's a very important point you're making, that science needs critical thinking. And what this actually does is to destroy that critical part of science, which is how to question, how to think about things and create new theories, new science, as it were. Do you think that this is going to promote at best copycat science, but really deep insights into science will be missing if we lose that critical element?
I think so, because science is predicated on questioning, on asking what there is on the basis of evidence. And now if people start believing holy texts, whether that's the Vedas or whether it's the Quran or the Bible or whatever, then of course all the answers to the world are supposedly in these texts. Why look beyond? And when people take religion seriously in this manner and think that science can be extracted out of holy texts, well, then they're certainly going to lose out. Moreover, I think that the attitude of questioning, that's a part of modernity. That's something very different from a traditional authoritarian society. And I'm afraid that we on this subcontinent are succumbing more and more to authoritarianism, that all knowledge is embedded in the books rather than going out and finding for ourselves and actually becoming inventors of knowledge. Now, I might say that the notion of inventing knowledge is not there in the holy books. You can go out and discover, but you cannot invent. That is for the powers up that lie above.
Now, you talked, I think, mentioned in the passing about jinns producing energy. Can you throw a little more light on this? Because this, I believe, was quote unquote a serious proposal by a nuclear physicist or a physicist, I don't remember who had actually proposed this and got some funding for it.
Well, it wasn't a nuclear physicist, it was a nuclear engineer by the name of Sultan Bashiruddin Mahmud, and he was the principal designer of the reactor at Khushab, which produces plutonium for making bombs. He did put this across as a proposal, and we had a grand fight some 40 years ago on this. But okay, that is not taken seriously. However, what is more alarming to me is that in our universities, there are now actually workshops being held on things like jinns and kala jadoo, black magic. And speakers have full auditoriums available to them. I mean, the students come and they sit transfixed by these speakers who talk about extraterrestrial spiritual beings that come and actually change our lives or have the potential of doing destruction or good.
It's very similar to genetics being practiced in the way in the Vedic period, Mahabharatas and Ramayana. So as you said, we seem to be following a little late, but nevertheless following on very similar lines. Other question that I have, that looking at what's happening in Pakistan, and this is of course something that's not very dissimilar to what's happening here, do you see a change in the Pakistani state with respect to thinking that if we do a certain set of things, protect a certain kind of violence that takes place, as long as it doesn't happen in India, in Pakistan it happens in Afghanistan, if it happens in India, that Pakistan as a state, it will be beneficial for it because this is somehow a part of its strategic depth. Do you think there is any change in this kind of thing? This is what I remember you criticized last time, that Pakistan's attitude to this is the problem, or the Pakistan state's attitude to this is the problem.
And indeed, I was very critical, and I am critical because the Pakistani state hasn't totally renounced it. There's still a little bit of that left, but I am very happy that now the realization has sunk in that having these extremists around who were actually intended as a third force, as a subterranean force for defeating bigger powers or doing or actually executing our foreign policy, that thought now seems to be disappearing because the costs of that have become very apparent. After all, what happened at the Army Public School massacre was not carried out by Israel or the United States or India. It was carried out by those who had at an earlier time been nurtured by the Pakistani state. And these are snakes. You breed them for attacking the other, but they come back and bite you. That realization is indeed now taking root in Pakistan.
Do you think that this is the reason that this time the response to what happened in Pathankot has been a little more positive, and we can hope that the kind of thaw, which is the third time that's happening between Sharif and Modi, will actually continue?
I'm actually very pleased by the mature reaction shown by both the Pakistani and the Indian side. Earlier on, the Pakistani reaction had simply been one of denial. This can't be our people. This must be a wound inflicted by India upon itself because it wants to put Pakistan in a bad light. Now, none of that. Now it is, yeah, give us evidence, and yes, we are worried, and yes, please tell us enough so that we can make a good case that we must lock up Jaish-e-Mohammed, and so far not Hafiz Saeed, but certainly Masood Azhar and so forth. So I think this time around there has been really a positive attitude shown by Pakistan, and I'd say a positive attitude shown by India as well, because he didn't go out simply saying, you're terrorists, we're going to come and hit you. We know now that in the world where nuclear weapons exist and where they can possibly be used as well, this time around, India also behaved maturely. It didn't say, Pakistan, you're just harboring terrorists, we're going to come on and attack you, we're going to destroy terrorist camps, etc., etc. They didn't do that. They said that, well, these are attempts to derail the talks, Pakistan must take action, but we are not going to be deterred by such random actions. And I think that's a sign of maturity. If pursued further, it will be mutually beneficial to both countries, to us particularly, because these terrorists have exacted an enormous toll upon Pakistan. And if there is peace between India and Pakistan, I don't say friendship can come later, first comes peace, then we will be spared this curse, as will you, and then all kinds of potentialities open up.
You know, it's very interesting. If people from Pakistan and India meet, it's always warm, it's always friendly. When I've gone to Pakistan, you've come to India, we find the response of the people have been very, very warm. The minute they get into television studios and they pick up their pens, that's where the vitriol starts flowing. So it's how much of it is really manufactured by the mass media itself is a question. Of course, there are deep differences that appear between the states. In this, do you think Nawaz Sharif from the Pakistan Muslim League, and you have Modi representing essentially the right-wing Hindu forces in this country, have a better shot at peace than secular governments? Well, because they are the ones who have been the spoilers generally.
Yeah, but look, I would not call Nawaz Sharif as an advocate of a religious party in Pakistan. Earlier he was. In 1999 he wanted to impose the Sharia on Pakistan, but he's come a long way since then. Maybe his experiences in Saudi Arabia have convinced him that that's not the way to go for Pakistan. But since coming back, he has been relatively more mature, and I'd say that, okay, the hardcore religious parties in Pakistan, the Jamaat-e-Islami, the Jamiyat-e-Ulema-e-Islam, others, they don't get any substantial fraction of the popular vote. So that's a clarification over there. I think that between India and Pakistan now potentialities have opened up, and that in spite of Narendra Modi and his initial hardline anti-Pakistan stand. But again, I think that maturity has been shown over here, and really what else can you do but talk to each other and make overtures towards peace in this nuclear age.
Thank you very much, Pervez, also bringing out the risk of two nuclear armed powers in this situation where they are at a kind of standoff which can spill over into war. And that kind of scenario is obviously not only dangerous for South Asia, for all of us, but also for the world. Thank you very much for bringing out the various issues. Hope to talk more with you even when you are back in Pakistan.